Nature communicates her secrets directly to us in terms of forms, colors, fragrances, sounds, and flavors, as well as the subtle thoughts that come to us through our intuitive imaginations. Herbal medicine is the evolutionary connection between the human race and the plant kingdom. People have depended upon plants not only as a source of food, but also as medicine to treat disease. Three of the most important reasons people return to the use of herbs is, first of all, their availability and inexpensiveness. Secondly, along with a wholesome diet, they can prevent sickness and cure disease. And thirdly, herbs have a time-honored reputation for being with little or no side effects. Herbs are, indeed, the first medicine of the world, and those who know the secrets of healing know of their superior effectiveness in the treatment of most diseases. Today, herbalism remains as the primary system of health for over 3/4 of the world's population. As modern medicine pursues its quest for symptomatic cures and complex systems of diagnosis, the gap between the poor and those who can afford such treatments widens, making herbology a system of healing more viable to a greater number of people. Most of us know health only by its absence with imbalanced lifestyles, so that our immune systems can no longer protect us. As with all healing, balance is achieved through fasting and living in harmony with the seasons, the climate, one's inherited constitution, and life work. An herbalist is one who dedicates him or herself to the practice of healing with herbs. He or she must study the plants themselves, as well as the principles of traditional herbal medicine that have been passed on from different cultures throughout time. The vital link in becoming an herbalist is the interaction with nature as we see ourselves connected to the entire process of life. One such herbalist is Michael Tierra, who has traveled around the world to study herbal healing in India, China, and the United States. His clinic in Santa Cruz, California, has been a place where he has contributed to the evolution of Western herbs. He also practices Chinese acupuncture, dietary therapy, and his own unique combination of Western, Ayurvedic, and Chinese medicines, which he calls planetary herbology.
What I'm doing is a Native American ritual called smudging, in which an aromatic herb, which can be found in your local environment, can be dried and placed into an abalone shell and lit. The smoke of these herbs have been studied, and they've been known that these resins from these herbs repulse bacteria and viruses from the environment. But that isn't, of course, the only reason why people would do these things. They also help to elevate our consciousness, and they purify our mind, and they're used before prayers and in religious ceremonies throughout the world. So that herbs can be used for both a spiritual purpose as well as a physical purpose. Now let's go into our kitchen and find what kinds of herbs we can find there. Because in the kitchen we can find all sorts of spices which each have a healing property. After all, the whole expansion in the world from Europe, from England and Spain, was in search of herbs. America was discovered for herbs. And in these spices, they could find, by putting them on their meats and vegetables that were perishable, that they would not perish, and the spices served as an alternative to refrigeration. But in our bodies, the spices can be taken for antibacterial properties. They can be used as a tea for colds and flus. A strong tea of cinnamon is a great treatment for a cold, or ginger. And taking a little bit of every spice off of your shelf is a very good remedy for acid indigestion and stomach upset. Another great place to find herbs is in the garden. And in the garden we have weeds that just grow up, and we unconsciously pluck them out, not realizing that the reason why they're growing there is they have a special message for us. And this message is something which is perhaps what many of you need and what many of us need. We can find dandelion, and we're going to see that later on, for the liver, plantain for bee stings and so forth, and so many, many things that just grow there, and we pluck them out, and they just keep coming up year after year until we remember to remember. The other thing about these herbs that grow in these places are that they have special strengths and powers, because not being pampered, they have the ability to impart their strength and power to us. In the wilds of our environment, throughout nature, we will find plants that have acculturated themselves over thousands of years, and in that place they will have special immune potentiating properties that other herbs may not have and other plants may not have. There is a whole thing of the doctrine of signatures which says that a plant may look like that which it treats, so that a plant that has a white mucousy or mucilaginous quality like marshmallow root is very good for mucus, or comfrey root. And an herb that is red like cayenne pepper is very good for the blood. And various other relationships like this that herbalists have used as ways of communicating with plants. Another way of understanding the healing properties of plants is through their flavors. The sweet flavor is nourishing. The spicy flavor dries mucus and disperses congestion in the body. The salty flavor helps to moisten our internal organs and skin. And the astringent flavor tightens up flaccid tissues in our body. And of course, the bitter flavor, our bitter brew, is something which we take to purify our bodies, because the bitter flavor contains many alkaloids and many substances that are purifying to the bloodstream and neutralize acids. And finally, the energies of herbs are described as being either warm or cool. And the herbs that have a hot energy, such as cayenne pepper, stimulate our metabolism, warm us up, and help our blood circulation. Herbs that have a cool energy, such as chickweed or spinach, can be taken as a tea to treat fevers. Herbs were sometimes called simples. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free. And to live in the way of nature and to follow the path of herbs is a way to use common sense in what is around us and to see what is profound in that which is simple and holy. Now let's take a walk into the garden and see the many herbs that are there. Now let's look at some of the ways that we can use herbs and foods as medicines. One of the most incredible places that you can find many natural medicines is in your own kitchen. And one of the most valuable of these is the common onion. The onion is in the same family as garlic, which are both in the lily family, and they both have high concentrations of organic sulfur. So that means they're antibiotic. By simply chopping an onion, and then in 2 cups of boiling water, just put your onion. And it's very good to add some lemon to this, which is also therapeutically very effective. And the peel, if the lemon is organic, is also good to put in. And let it steep. Steeping means that you don't boil it. You just let it sit there in boiling water for about 20 minutes until it's cool enough. Then we'll add some honey later, and this will make it more syrupy. And this is very, very good for colds, flus, and coughs. An old-time mountain remedy using onions is called the onion pack. It was used for pneumonia and bronchitis, and it's just as good today as it was then. What we do is we steam onions and take a piece of cheesecloth like so, we wrap it up to form a pack. Lay it on his chest, or you can lay it on his back to cover the whole area. Put a towel over it to cover, and then a blanket over the top of that. This should stay on for about 2 or 3 hours, and it can be renewed with a warm pack put on several times. And it will kill any bacteria in the lungs and treat pneumonia very effectively. What have we here? A lily? No, it's garlic. It's a member of the lily family. I usually think of lilies as being soft, delicate, sweet flowers, but then we have garlic. Oh, I guess many people like it. It's very much like garlic. Garlic can be used for a number of purposes. It's an anti-inflammatory, it's good for digestion, and it's virtually an antibiotic plant for all diseases, all infectious diseases. You can use garlic to make garlic oil, you can use it in pastas, and you can use it for arthritis and rheumatism, and you can also use it for impotence. Garlic is said to be good for just about every disease except the ones that it causes, and you can guess what that must be. Woo!
The parts used of garlic are the cloves. It can be made into a syrup, poultice, or used raw. It is good for coughs, colds, flus, indigestion, arthritis, respiratory problems, and is a good antibiotic. Actually, garlic cures anything but what it causes, bad breath. It has a warm energy and a pungent taste.
A clove of garlic, a little bit of honey, and we're all set to make a whole pharmacopoeia of medicines. The garlic has tremendous healing properties. In some parts of the world, it's considered the major home remedy for all diseases. It's used as a tonic for low energy, for high blood pressure, and also for low blood pressure, for indigestion, for arthritis and rheumatism. In this way, it's used internally. It's also a very potent source of antibiotic. Member of the lily family, it's incredibly high in organic sulfur, and it will knock out any kind of infection that you have as well as viruses. Syrup of garlic is easily made by putting some whole garlic cloves into the blender, adding a little bit of honey just to cover it, and then blend it. The syrup is ready. After a short period of time, you can squeeze all the pulp out of it, and you have pure garlic syrup. About a tablespoon or two can be taken every couple of hours for inflammatory and infectious diseases. Guess what plant I'm sitting behind? This is our comfrey plant. Comfrey, comfrey, comfort me. Comfrey, comfrey, help me to breathe. Make my lungs whole again, heal inflammation. Comfrey, comfrey, heal my lungs. That's a children's song that I do to teach children about this great healing herb called comfrey. It's a native, actually, of Asia, and this particular variety is called Russian comfrey, so I guess it comes from there. But people have planted it all over this continent, and you can find them many old homesteads just growing as a volunteer. Any little part of the root will sprout a whole plant like this. The leaves, the root, and the whole plant is used. The comfrey is famous for its ability to heal lung infections, bronchitis, and coughs, and also to help heal wounds and bones and injuries.
The parts used of comfrey are the leaves and roots. It can be made into a tea, poultice, mucilage, and a green drink. It is good for broken bones, back injuries, internal bleeding, arthritis, the lungs, and it aids digestion. It has a cool energy and bitter taste.
This is plantain, Plantago lanceolata. This herb is a very, very good anti-inflammatory. Perhaps one of its greatest virtues is that it's a powerful acute healing plant, and it can be found growing almost anywhere in the world. There are two varieties of plantain. One is called Plantago lanceolata, of which this is an example because it has lance leaf, and the other is Plantago major, which is a large wide-leafed plantain. This herb can be made into a tea and used for cystitis, bladder infection, for hepatitis, and I oftentimes use this to teach to children because the leaves can be chewed right on the spot, like this, and you just stick it on wherever there's a bee sting.
The parts used of plantain are the leaves and seeds. It can be made into a tea, poultice, and salve. It is good for bee stings, infections, rashes, poison oak and ivy, bites, wounds, injuries, and the urinary tract. It has a cool energy and a mild, pleasant taste.
Comfrey and plantain are two of the most traditional herbs that are used as a leaf poultice for the injury of bruises, cuts, abrasions, and also to pull out splinters from the body. There are different ways of using herbs like this. One is to take your raw comfrey root and stick it in the mortar and pestle and just pound it until it's soft and juicy. Here I have some dried plantain, and I can put it in this boiling water and pour a little bit of this water into the mortar and pestle to help soften up the poultice a little bit. Continue to grind it up. Add a little bit more water. What we're going to wind up with is a mass of leaf substance, rich in chlorophyll, rich in allantoin, and rich in the tremendous healing powers of nature. We will then mix this, wrap it up in a cloth, and this poultice can then be taped on a cut, an injury, or an abrasion. And it's very, very good to promote healing and to stop pain. This is skullcap, Scutellera latiflora. It's a member of the mint family, whose plant family is characterized by a square ridge stem. It can be found growing in most mountainous regions, and it's cultivated in many, many gardens. The flower is a very small labiate type of flower, and because of the overhanging curl of it, it gets the name skullcap because it looks like it goes over the flower fits over the head of a skull. Like many blue-flowered plants, it's a nervine antispasmodic, and it's good for the nervous system. I use it for all addiction problems, from alcohol, tobacco, and as well as sleeplessness and all neurological disorders. And I use it either in tincture or in tea form.
The parts used of skullcap are the leaves, roots, and stems. It can be made into a tea, tincture, and powder. It is good for insomnia, addictions, and nervousness. It has a cool energy and bitter taste.
Skullcap has many, many good uses, mainly for the nervous system, and I use it with great effectiveness for addiction, for conditions associated with addiction to cigarette, tobacco, drugs. I would recommend a person to take it every hour, every 2 hours. And of course, it's also very good for epilepsy and insomnia. This is a very good, fresh skullcap extract. One of the most important things that an herbalist should remember is to have labels. It's easy to have all those things in a jar and not know what they are a week or 2 weeks or a year later. Your tinctures are good for at least 3 years in most cases, so be sure you label them. Many herbs have their roots back in mythological times of the Greeks and Romans. This one is elecampane, whose Latin name is Inula Helenum, named after Helen of Troy. The name elecampane perhaps is an adulteration of the name elfdock. You can almost imagine a whole bunch of little elves around this plant. It's the flower and the root that's used. The flower is used in Chinese medicine. The whole bud is picked, and it's used for coughs and bronchial conditions. The root is used by Western herbalists for digestive problems, mucus, chronic lung, asthma, and bronchial congestions.
The parts used of elecampane are the leaves and roots. It can be made into a tea or powder. It is good for coughs, digestive disorders, and bronchitis. It has a warm energy and an acrid taste.
Elecampane is used as a herb to help promote digestion, and as such it helps to inhibit the formation of mucus. because mucus is formed in the stomach and in the digestive system. If our digestion is too cold, then the lungs will develop mucus, and other parts of the body as well. Western herbalists use the root of elecampane as an expectorant, digestive tonic, and something to help clear the lungs and strengthen the lungs. The Chinese use the flowers of the elecampane, and the whole plant, they say, lowers the qi, which means that it will bring down it will stop coughing, because coughing means that the energy is rising too much. So making a tea of elecampane flowers, and probably the root as well, will actually help to stop the cough reflex. So the most usual way to use elecampane is as a tea. And using our standard dosage of 1 ounce of herb to a pint of water, we would then just simply put this in the teapot and steep it, because the volatile oils are something we want to keep. If we're using a fresh herb, however, we would want to use it about 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces to a pint of water. I'm standing in front of my totem herb, Echinacea, popularly known as prairie coneflower. It's a native of the North American continent. It grows on the Great Plains here. There are many varieties, and this particular variety is called Echinacea purpurea, which is a common garden variety, and many people grow it in their gardens as a beautiful garden herb. The name Echinacea is a very strange name to pronounce, and it comes from an old name, the Greek name named echinos, which means sea urchin or hedgehog, because of the spiky cone at the top of it. The part of the plant that's used medicinally is the root. This herb is a sensation now in the herb world in North America as well as Europe, and even the Chinese are beginning to look at it, because the herb is the root of it is an absolute antibiotic, antiviral, and it even is effective for certain kinds of cancers. It's a member of the composite family, and you can see all these little flowering petals around the side. However, in this plant, none of these petals bear a seed. Echinacea is one of the great herbs, and is perhaps one that I would hope that everyone in this country would know about and learn to use.
The part used of Echinacea is the root. It can be made into a tea, tincture, and powder. It is good for infections, blood poisoning, poison oak and ivy, and is nature's wonderful antibiotic. It has a neutral energy and a bitter taste.
You remember the Echinacea that we saw in our garden. This is the root after it's been dried and chopped up. Actually, we chop it first and then dry it. Echinacea has tremendous healing properties, mainly as an immune potentiator, because it inhibits the hyaluronidase enzyme, which causes pus to form during inflammatory diseases. So Echinacea is a broad-spectrum antibiotic herb. It actually will deal with all forms of microorganisms, including viruses and all types of bacteria. It also has anti-cancer properties. It's probably one of the most important herbs of the North American continent, and everyone should have it available in their own house. The most convenient way to use Echinacea is as a tincture or extract. One of the ways to make an extract is to take some of your dried Echinacea powder and put it into a coffee mill, and then turn it on to powder it. The powder would then go into a wide-mouthed jar, and we would then put vodka in, just enough to cover it. And later on, as it absorbs it, we would add a little bit more. And then we would shake this every day, a couple of times a day, for about 2 weeks, and then wring it out through a cloth. If you happen to have the luxury of having a Vitamix, you can do the whole thing in one operation. And we'll simply put our Echinacea into the Vitamix, like so, and then add the vodka. Now, of course, ethyl alcohol is very good. We need a little bit more there. Ethyl alcohol is excellent to use, but at the end, you would want to dilute your alcohol with at least 50% water if it's pure alcohol. So then we would put our cover on, and Just blend it up. This echinacea extract then would sit for about 2 weeks, as we said, putting it into a wide mouth jar, squeezing it out, and then we put it into dropper bottles, and you can take it every 2 hours during any acute inflammatory disease or infectious condition. It can also be applied externally. It's considered to be very effective for snake bites as well.
The part used of golden seal is the root. It can be made into a tea, tincture, and powder. It is good for inflammation, the mucous membranes, and infections. It has a cool energy and bitter taste.
What we have here could well be a scene out of the woods of West Virginia. We have golden seal and ginseng and yellow perilla growing together, and usually it grows in hardwood forests, which include maple trees. The golden seal here is at its prime with its bright red berry. Sometimes it's called puccoon berry. It's one of our most valuable herbs, and the root, which is a bright yellow color, has both berberine and hydrastine alkaloids in it, which make it very beneficial for the liver. The root is used as an anti-inflammatory agent, and because of the nature of the root, it's very good for the mucous membranes of the body, so that it will stop up conditions where there's excess mucus discharge from any particular part of the body where that could be occurring. It's in the member of the buttercup family called the ranuncula, and the root is harvested after about 2 or 3 years, and it multiplies by little runners under the ground. The ginseng is a little bit different from the Asian ginseng. This is called Panax quinquefolium, and that's because it has 5 different leaves in its mature form. The younger leaves, the 1-year leaves, only have 3. The ginseng is considered to be the greatest tonic in the world, and the Chinese have paid perhaps millions of dollars to import our wild ginseng to their country because they've used all theirs up. We thought they were crazy, but now we're beginning to realize there was something to it, because this is the greatest herb for the immune system known. Anybody who has low energy can use ginseng, and I'm going to show you in a while different ways in which you can use it.
The part used of ginseng is the root. It can be made into a tea and tincture. It is a supreme tonic. It strengthens the body and sexual energies as well as the immune system, and it aids digestion. It has a warm energy and bittersweet taste.
The Chinese have an unbroken tradition of herbology that extends more than 3,000 years. Their knowledge of tonic herbs that have tremendous immune potentiating properties is unequaled in the world. Here we have 3 of the most important Chinese herbs. This one here is a very valuable Chinese ginseng root that I brought back from China with me. These are slices of a root called astragalus, and the astragalus is considered to be one of the most powerful herbs for the immune system known in the world. It builds red blood cells, and it's one of the most powerful herbs to protect a person from getting sick and to tonify the immune system. These, which look like a lady's hand, are slices of the dong quai, which is considered to be like the lady's ginseng. This lady's ginseng is very good for the blood and for moving blood, for poor blood circulation, and for all gynecological problems. It regulates all menstrual disorders in women, and it's very important for women to use it regularly to keep their blood strong. Chinese women use it all the time. Ginseng is a major herb that's used when there's low energy, and both of these are unfailing in their effects if they're applied accordingly. When a person is weak, we prefer to use these tonic herbs in a food. The Chinese call this food congee. If it's for a woman, they will combine a little bit of dong quai and a little bit of ginseng root together in a pot of boiling water, and they'll make a tea with it. If it's for the whole family, they might use a little bit of dong quai plus the astragalus and ginseng together.
Such a soup is what people use in China instead of vitamins. And they would give it to the whole family on a weekly basis. Congee is when you take about 1 cup of rice to about 10 cups of water. And the water, of course, would be our tea out of the Chinese herbs, using perhaps a whole root of ginseng and a few slices of astragalus to make the tea. And then we would add 1 cup of rice to 10 cups of water and cook it slowly for 6 to 8 hours. Perhaps a piece of meat might be added to this, a little onion or carrot. In this particular situation, we have made simply a thin porridge, and this porridge has a whole ginseng root in it, and has some astragalus and a little dong quai, so it's good for all of us. Let's see how it tastes. It's delicious. And you'll feel the benefits. It makes you warm, and it gives you a tremendous amount of strength. It'll last for the whole week. In the wintertime, and for circulatory problems, it's very good to combine ginseng, perhaps with a little bit of astragalus, with alcohol. The alcohol carries the properties of the ginseng in the blood, and about a teaspoon 2 or 3 times a day in the winter will help keep you warm, keep your energy strong. When we use a ginseng root, we break off the very top part, which is where the leaves would come off. We set that aside because that will antidote the rest of the root. We use that in case a fever comes up. And the rest of the root we can stick in a jar like so, using all the tails and everything. And we'll break it up a bit. And why not put a little bit of our astragalus in with it. And again, we're going to pour our vodka in, just to cover it, shaking it every day. And this ginseng is very, very good. We'll just let it sit, and after we use it all up, then we would simply replenish it and add more alcohol. And a teaspoon is taken 2 or 3 times a day. This is very, very good for people after the age of 40 to keep their energy strong and keep their circulation working well. You can see I have one I've been working on here, and I've done this, been using this for the last 2 or 3 years. I use cognac in this, and I put my ginseng root in and slices of deer antler. And but for women, we would particularly use dong quai, taking our dong quai slices and breaking them up, and adding some astragalus. And again, covering it, in this case, with some very good quality vodka. And again, this would be used similarly, and it's very good for coldness in the wintertime and for any gynecological problems, menstrual disorders. And you would shake it up every day. You could almost fill up, or at least half full, of the alcohol in this jar, and the same thing with the other. And you'd shake it every day, and then after a couple of weeks you begin to take a teaspoon of it 2 or 3 times a day. This is especially good in cold winter climates. I wouldn't recommend using these herbs, which have a warming nature. They raise metabolism. I wouldn't recommend using too much of them in the summertime. So I would hope that people are familiar with using some of these basic Chinese herbs because they are a tremendous key to health. I have a formula called Tai Chi that contains a number of these together. I will use them sometimes, recommend them to make a soup with them, cooking rice and meat, or just simply taking them every morning just to maintain your energy. This is called the Tai Chi formula. It's put out by Planetary Herb Company. Here is the pretty herb of Venus tree called yarrow. Its name is Achillea millefolium. It's a member of the composite family. You can find this herb growing everywhere in the world, in pastures and open waste places, and it multiplies both by runners under the ground, which is the most frequent, but as well as the seeds. It'll flower from about June on for about 3 or 4 months after that. The foliage and the flowers are what's used medicinally. The name Achillea tells us that it has its roots back in Greek mythology. Sometimes it's called soldier's woundwort, and Achilles was the ancient soldier of Greek fame, and it was said that he used this herb to staunch the bleeding on his soldiers. He would chew it and stick it directly on. The flowers can be used for menstrual cramps and for melancholy and mood regulation, as well as for colds and flus and fevers. I'm actually holding two varieties of. This is an ornamental one, and this is the more common white one. This herb figures very prominently in various charms and in sacred and mystical and superstitious rites all over the world. And one of these charms is the use of it as a way of determining the I Ching. 50 yarrow stalks are stripped off and they're counted to determine which I Ching was used. This was the use of the Chinese. But one of Europe was a legend that said that if you recited a particular charm, if your nose bled, it meant that your lover loved you, and if it didn't bleed, it meant they didn't love you. And they would take a leaf of the yarrow and stick it in their nose and say, yarrow away, blow a white blow. If my love loves me, my nose will bleed now. Now let's see. Oh my goodness, I guess she doesn't love me today.
The parts used of yarrow are the leaves and flowers. It can be made into a tea and salve. It is good for colds, flus, fevers, menstrual cramps, abdominal pains, the liver, measles, and it stops bleeding. It has a neutral energy and a bitter taste.
We're going to use a number of these herbs that we picked from the garden to make the faster version of the salve. Here's some golden seal powder. The Cherokee Indians used to smear their faces with it, and they used to use it in their ceremonies. It has a very beautiful golden color. The golden seal powder is used as an anti-inflammatory. It's a tonic for the mucous membranes. A very good tincture can be made of it to help as a tonic for digestion, a teaspoon taken before meals, by just adding a little alcohol to the tincture. In this particular one, we're going to put it in our salve to make it a golden color and to increase its healing anti-inflammatory properties. So we're going to just add about a teaspoon of golden seal salve. And of course, as the base for this, we're going to use olive oil. Add a little bit more here. The next herb that we're going to use is plantain. Plantain is one of the most common herbs, as I mentioned earlier, grows all over the world, and it's so valuable because of its availability. Plantain is a very good anti-inflammatory herb. It's also astringent, and it will help pull slivers and things that are stuck in the body out. So we just put our plantain that we chopped up into the salve. And here's our familiar friend Echinacea angustifolia. Again, like the golden seal, it has antibiotic properties and anti-inflammatory properties. And we'll add a couple of tablespoons of Echinacea to this salve. Yarrow, which has tremendous healing properties. We have stripped the leaves and the flowers off. It's a diaphoretic. It also promotes healing and has astringent properties. And we'll put some of this in our oil as well. And finally, last but not least, we add our comfrey. Comfrey, called knitbone, is one of the most powerful healers known. The root of comfrey, taken regularly, will help unite broken bones much quicker, help unite torn flesh and promote muscular healing. And it also, taken internally, it's very good for ulcers. That's comfrey root. But the comfrey leaf is very, very good as an anti-inflammatory. And its astringency and healing properties make it an excellent thing to add to healing salves of the type that we're going to make here. So we're going to put that into our oil as well. Now we're going to stir this up until the salve, until the properties of the herbs are directly impregnated into the oils. It's just a lot like sautéing potatoes. You'll see them literally cook in the oil. And after we've done this a sufficient period of time,
I think we should add a little more oil to this. And now we can actually add more herbs as well. So the healing power of the plants that we use will go directly into the oil, and it's much faster this way. Probably would only take a few minutes to make your salve in this way. After it's done, we would then strain this off into the strainer and add beeswax as we did previously to make it solid. This is an ointment that we're making that is anti-inflammatory. It's good for burns and abrasions and injuries and fungus infections and itches. It has a combination of echinacea, golden seal, plantain, and comfrey, all cooked into a tea. The tea is then cooked down till there's just a little bit of the liquid left, and then I've added olive oil to it. And then the olive oil is cooked along with the remaining liquid of the tea until all of the water is removed. At that point, I added more golden seal powder, and I continued to cook the water away and added some beeswax. So that the salve has the beeswax melted into it with the oil, which will make it solid. To preserve your salves, you can add vitamin E oil, or you could use a little bit of tincture of benzoin. You don't need much more than a few drops. Now, to test to see if it's the right consistency, you spoon a little bit out and blow on it. And if it gets hard and solid, then you test it out and you see if it's solid enough. If it's too hard, you would add more oil and continue to cook it. If it's too soft, then you'd add more beeswax. What I'm doing is I'm picking mullein flowers. This is the greater mullein plant, Verbascum thapsus. It's a member of the Scrophularia family. And this herb is another one that goes way back into antiquity. It can be found growing all over the world in open pastures and meadows and in gardens. Sometimes it's called candlestick plant because in ancient times in the Middle Ages they would dip the whole top of this flowering plant into hog's lard or suet, and then they would light it as a taper, and they could use it to light their way down a path. The mullein, the leaves are used for bronchial congestion, and normally it's the leaves that are used and the flowers. The flowers are used to make an ear oil. What I will do is I'll fill this bottle full of mullein flowers and then cover it with olive oil, let it sit for a few days, squeeze the oil out, and you can put this in the ear with a little piece of cotton for earaches. One of the other interesting things about mullein is that it will attract snails and slugs to the underparts of the leaves. And one of the ways that you can use it to catch these things, but an old trick is to take a piece of wood and lay it on the ground, a little bit suspended, and put some butter or margarine underneath, and all your slugs and snails will go to it, and then you can throw them into some lime water to dissolve them. And in this way you can eliminate them from the garden. The mullein is also used in case you happen to run out of toilet paper.
The parts used of mullein are the leaves, roots, and flowers. It can be made into a tea, poultice, and oil. It is good for congestion, the nerves, earaches, and lymphatic system. It has a neutral energy and a pleasant, mild taste.
This is dandelion, and its Latin name is Taraxacum officinalis. It's a member of the composite family, which has many, many plants and flowers and herbs in them, including the common daisy. And like the daisy, it has several little individual rays or leaflets or flower corollas in its corolla. And each one of these makes a whole seed unto itself. And that's why it's a composite, because the flower is actually a composite of many different flowers. The leaf gives it its popular name of dandelion, which comes from the French name denta de lion. And that's because the leaf has serrated edges and creates a a kind of indentation that looks a lot like a lion's tooth. The young leaves are eaten as a pot herb in the springtime and are a high source of potassium, vitamin C, vitamin A, and even B. And the root is also used as a tea. The root is used as a tea for hepatitis, stomach problems, kidney and urinary disorders. Roasted dandelion root makes a very good substitute for coffee, and the use of dandelion root is one of the finest herbs I've ever used in my practice for the treatment of hepatitis. I think if people understood the great benefit of dandelion, they wouldn't be so eager to want to pluck it up out of their garden lawns. Instead, if they were to pull it up, they could use all parts as probably an herb which has more nutrition than any vegetables they would cultivate.
The parts used of dandelion are the roots, leaves, and flowers. It can be made into a tea and wine. It is good for the liver, urinary organs, stomach, spleen, kidneys, bladder, and purifies the blood. It has a cool energy and bitter taste.
What's in a cup of tea? Depends what you're going to use it for. If you're going to make a medicine tea, you have to make it strong. And you need at least a good ounce to a pint of water. A pint is 2 full cups. And an ounce depends on the weight of the herb that you're going to use. If you're using a light herb like plantain, perhaps this whole dish, which would be about the amount that would fit into the palm of your hand, would be an ounce of plantain. If you're using a heavier root, like dandelion root, you don't even use about that much. That's about an ounce of dandelion root. In terms of how long you cook herbs, if the herb has an odor like this mint does, we say that it has volatile oils in it. If that's important for the medicinal properties, because usually they help you to sweat, and if you're trying to get rid of a cold, you want herbs with volatile oils, then you only steep it. So you bring your water to a rolling boil and either add the herb into it or pour the water over the herb and cover it so the oils do not escape. However, if you're using herbs like dandelion, in which the volatile oil is not the essential ingredient, you would simmer it for about 10 to 20 minutes on a low flame. And that way you would be making what's called a decoction, whereas the other variety where you're steeping the herbs like mint is called an infusion. Now all of this is really contingent upon where you're getting your herbs. If you're buying them like these are, it's perhaps important to know what the minimal amount of herb is that you need to do the job effectively. But if you're going around out in your backyard, you might want to do it the Indian way. You just take this whole mullein here and you just stuff it in the pot like I see my Indian brothers do, and the whole thing can go in and more. And that way we can make the tea as strong as we want if we know the herb that we're using and we know that it's needed. The mullein is an herb that we haven't talked about yet. Mullein is very, very good as a decongestant for the lungs. And we would use about 2 or 3 cups a day for asthma and for bronchitis and lung congestion. The dandelion, which is one of my very favorite herbs, can be used in 2 ways, either unroasted, which is this one, or otherwise pan roasted, where you take the dried dandelion root, stick it in a pan, and dry roast it. That has a rather roasted flavor, something like coffee, and makes it very appealing to people who are interested in getting off or cutting down their coffee intake. I use dandelion root for hepatitis and all liver disorders, and also for chronic stomach pains and for kidney and urinary problems. This is motherwort, Leonoris cardiaca. It's a member of the mint family, and it has square stems like other members of this family. Commonly, the herb is used as an emmenagogue, promotes menstrual periods in women, but it also is used for general circulatory problems, and it treats arteriosclerosis and helps circulation and it helps the heart. Thus its name cardiaca. And Leonoris means lion, and perhaps since ancient arcane knowledge associates the symbol of the lion for the energy of the sun and the heart,
that might be a connection that this plant has. It grows almost in all areas of the world, including the Far East and Europe and North America, where it has been naturalized.
The parts used of motherwort are the leaves, roots, stems, and flowers. It can be made into a tea or tincture. It is good for female disorders, blood clots, and nervousness. It has a cold energy and a bitter, spicy taste.
Some herbs have a name that will tell you what it's good for. But in the case of motherwort, the herb is not good for mothers with warts. This herb is used for promoting regularity of menstruation in women. We have to strip it with our gloves because the seed pods have very sharp prickles on them and they'll hurt our fingers. It's a member of the mint family. And there are many ways to prepare it, and the way we're choosing to do so today is to make another tincture. And this herb was very famous in both Chinese and Western herbology. The Chinese women, the courtesans, used it throughout the month to prevent themselves from becoming pregnant because it would bring on the menstrual cycle. In Western herbology, it's used both for the circulation to help heart as well as to help menstrual irregularities in women. We're going to use brandy in our tincture today. We can also use motherwort as a tea, and we would use about a tablespoon for medicinal purposes, about a tablespoon to a cup of water. I like to combine it with hawthorn berries in that way, particularly, especially if it's for the heart. If we're going to make this tincture, we would let it sit for about 2 weeks as we have done our previous tincture, putting it up on the full moon and straining it on the new moon, and we would take about 10 to 30 drops as the single dosage 2 or 3 times a day.
Oh, sacred herb, purify me, let me walk in perfect unity. Respect the earth and all creation. I feel your energy flowing in my veins. I sense your beauty healing me. Oh, beautiful, beautiful herbs. Well, that gives us an introduction to what we have seen, all the different ways that we can use herbs. We can use herbs for both acute diseases such as colds and flus and injuries and bruises, and for healing broken bones such as our comfrey. And we can use them for chronic conditions such as hepatitis or liver cirrhosis using dandelion root, or low energy using ginseng root, or chronic digestive disturbances with golden seal. So that herbs can weave their way into our lives in many wonderful ways. We can also use them as preventive agents. Making the wines that we saw on the tape are things that people might take only a teaspoon or a tablespoon every day. Instead of using vitamins, they used to use herbs in this way. This tape that we've seen is something that will help to introduce you to the wonderful world of herbs, but really the other part of it is you getting out and doing it. You can see the way I presented things, that this is something that's totally available to you. Everything that you need is right at hand. It's in your garden, it's in your spice shelf, or it's in your local herb store, and the things that you need to make preparations such as salves and tinctures are usually all in your kitchen. So what are you waiting for? Many people want to know how they can study and learn more about herbs, and I would suggest that you might look into my book called The Way of Herbs. It has been around for a while, but it is highly respected, and there are many fine ideas in there that will help you to amplify your knowledge of herbs. The East-West Correspondence course is 36 lessons. It's for the more serious student who is looking perhaps for a more professional career in the use of herbs. And this is a comprehensive course in both Chinese and Western herbology. And finally, we intend to make more videos, and we'd like to hear any feedback that you have about this one. Till I see you again on video, this is Michael Tierra, and may you walk in balance.